نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبد الله ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله عز وجل كما جاء في محكم التنزيل: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. Dear brothers and sisters, we begin with an abundant praise and gratitude towards our Creator who has blessed us and filled our life with countless favors and blessings. And we realize that out of all of His favors, guidance is the most special of all of His favors. And so we seek His guidance. We learn from the revelation and the prophets that He revealed and sent to mankind. And on our path, as we are human and we have flaws and defects, we will sin. So we seek His forgiveness and we seek His guidance and we seek Him to repair our hearts and our minds from deviation. We bear witness and declare from the bottom of our hearts that there is no deity and nothing worthy of worship other than God Almighty. And we bear witness that Muhammad was His final messenger and servant He sent to mankind so that they could know the straight path back to Him. In our discourse as Muslims and in our practice, oftentimes what we are taught as children or as new Muslims, we stay at that level for a long time. And it's very important in this world that we live in, where ignorance of spirituality, of neglect in spiritual focus is commonplace. Materialistic, worldly attachments are at the forefront of the attitude towards life today. It's very important that we come to know Scripture and have a relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as He revealed and as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, Al-ulama warathatul anbiya, right? That the scholars, those are the people who inherited the prophethood. Meaning the prophethood has finished, and so after that, if you want to have a deep, pure, correct understanding of the religion, you must rely upon the scholars. And so alhamdulillah, a lot of Muslims do not realize how deep our religion is, how rich and vast our system of a religious lifestyle is. And so it's very important that we learn that. Our religion is based on foundations, and that is our basic stuff that we learn as children and as new Muslims. You have your pillars of faith. We believe in the oneness and perfection of God. We believe in His angels that have all these roles and responsibilities. We believe that He revealed Scripture. He sent down a message and a way of life that He gave to people, prophets, who were showing us the best way to live. And we believe that we are responsible and accountable for the life that we choose to live. And we believe that the divine will and knowledge is superseding and overarching reality. That's the foundation of faith. Foundation of your lifestyle. We declare and we attempt to learn from Scripture and live a lifestyle that reflects our love for God and His messenger. And then we establish 5 daily prayers, and then we pay our obligatory alms, zakat, and then we fast Ramadan to give a restart and revitalization to our spirituality, and then we make a pilgrimage remembering the Abrahamic covenant. Those are your foundations. Hopefully everybody knows those, and everybody has a good relationship with those. Today we're going to talk about something that is part of 2 other aspects of our religion that most Muslims do not know, right? So a lot of Muslims complain, we hear khutbahs and it seems like the same old stuff every year, every time, just the same stuff, right? So we know this, some old stories, and so we need to pray and all of that, right? So today we're going to talk about the objectives of Islam. There are 5 objectives to Islam, 5 necessities of existence. Most Muslims, if you ask them, they say, what are you talking about? You talking about the praying and fasting and all that? That's what would be their response, right? So the first objective is to preserve monotheistic religion, right? And that includes Islam and anyone else who would say God is one and there is no other God besides Him, right? That's why we have Ahl al-Dhimma, right? those people are being preserved and respected under the Islamic State, those Christians and Jews, and even many of our scholars defined the Majus as well as the Hindus as monotheists. And if you need further clarification, we can do that some other time. And so that's why those people thrived and flourished in the Islamic state for many, many, many centuries. And the billion Hindus that are in India are a testament that Islam did not say kill all the infidels. Otherwise, when we ruled them for 7 centuries, we would have killed them all, right? Same thing with your 40 million Arab Christians scattered across the Muslim world. If Islam said kill the infidels, then those people wouldn't be there, right? All those people trace themselves back to before the Islamic Caliphate and Islamic State. So then we have the preservation of human life. All human life is sacred except that human life that's threatening you, right? Every human that is not threatening you right now is sacred, and Muslims believe we should work to preserve. No matter if somebody is not Muslim and somebody's threatening their life, we should be the first people to stand up to defend those people's life and right to existence. And the next is the human family. We have this core of society, which is a healthy family. Islam came to protect and preserve the cohesion and the lineage of that, and that there is an understanding of how to flourish as a family. And then the next one is wealth. Human wealth is a blessing of God, and people should earn it lawfully. They should maintain it lawfully. If anyone tries to take wealth or use wealth in some unlawful means, Islam is going to bring something to stop that, right? And then the last one is the intellect. The human intellect should grow and thrive intellectually. We should learn and, become more intelligent and develop our acumen. And we should have a knowledge of our religion and our society and all of the realities that we deal with, right? Anything that's going to hinder that should be removed, right? So those are your 5 objectives and necessities of the Islamic worldview and paradigm, right? So we have principles, overarching principles, qawaid, that are there to preserve those things, right? They are there to make sure that those things are protected. And the one we came to talk about today, we're going to give our sermon, inshallah, in the next 20 minutes, for Laa Darar Walaa Diraar. So I will translate that in a moment, but first I will predicate it with the West. We pride ourselves here in the West as a Western people because we have, human rights, we have, civilization, we have advanced intellectual and technological things. It's all great, right? We have a society that is, to a large extent, functioning much more fair than other societies, right? And so this all started very recently, right? Europe and the quote-unquote Christian world for over 1,000 years, just less than 100 and some years ago, was in a dark ages, a medieval time, very corrupt, backward, the royal, the kingdom, the church, and their relationship and how they executed their law. That's why everybody's secular now, because those people were very crooked and backward, and they did not like the system that they brought for them, and so therefore the people said, we need to get rid of this kingdoms and this church influence and authority over us, because those people are backward and crooked and they cause harm to us, right? And so one of the founders of the modern Western thought about the modern Western freedom and laws and code of conduct, his name is John Stuart Mill. And he was a British thinker and philosopher, and he wrote a book called Our Liberty. And in this book, Our Liberty, he talks about the only purpose for which the power of government can be rightfully exercised over any member of a civilized community against their will is to remove harm. Right? And so the Western thinkers and the history of the Western anthropology, they're proud that we have now made a system where everybody's rights and liberty is preserved unless somebody is going to harm somebody else, right? Or there's some harm that they're creating, right? At which point, now, we say that, right? But tobacco is very legal. People are making billions of dollars off it, and it kills 400,000 people a year. And it causes emphysema and bronchitis and all these things to anybody who starts to smoke it for any reasonable amount of time, right? So we have this system that we're proud of, but capitalism trumps these old great values that they started on, right? Because it's about the dollar bill, right? the cash, right? They're trying to make money, even if it hurts people, right? And so maybe as a society we will come back to these principles. So we're so proud of this rule that we made, but the Prophet Muhammad 12 centuries before John Stuart Mill made the very authoritative declaration to the Islamic state and society, Laa Darar Walaa Diraar. There can be no harming oneself or others, right? This is an overarching maxim, a legal principle that is vast and analogous to many things. If God was going to mention in everything in the Quran, and the Prophet was going to have to explain everything that's harmful. Number one, there's things that don't exist in their time, that will exist later, that they can't mention by name. But they need to be understood to be wrong for what they cause of harm. Right? So the Prophet ﷺ, he said that. When you make a negation, the la nafil al-jins, of a indefinite general statement, La ilaha illallah, there is no God, there is nothing deified, nothing should be worshipped except for the one and only, right? Other than that, it's not real. La ikraha fid deen, there can be no compulsion and forcing people about religious and spiritual matters. You cannot force somebody to be in spirituality. These are Quranic overarching paradigms that we have in our legal system. So La Darar Walaa Diraar, you cannot cause harm to people or yourself, right? So the exception to this is basically when somebody's bringing some harm and you have to bring another harm that is lesser to remove that harm. Right? They call it irtikab wa akhaf ad-dararain, right? To go ahead and indulge in the lesser of the two harms, right? So for example, the penal code or the capital punishment law, that is there because the reality of statistics show, whether it be mafia or gangs or serial murders or whatever, when somebody kills somebody, chances are if they get away with it, they will do it again, right? And so this presents a threat and a harm to society. So the historical divine law is that that person should be killed, right? To remove the potential harm from society. Now the Islamic law is a little bit more merciful than some other laws in that it says that if the family of the murdered individual would like to forgive the person who caused the murder, then they may do that. Right? And so then that law would be relaxed. In which case, the need for a prison system should be there, and that person should be permanently removed from society. Right? Because that person presents a harm. Anybody who's willing to kill somebody else, that person is a danger to society, and they should be removed. And that's what the scholars call ad-darar yuzal. When there is harm existing or impending, it should be removed. Right? And so this is the same concept. Whenever somebody is assailing you, somebody's trying to attack you, somebody's trying to, and these are things that were written in Islamic law 14 centuries ago, right? Somebody comes to attack you, right? And you have a means to stop them, right? Then you would stop them according to the least. If you can stop them by yelling and a whole group of people stop them, that's the best case scenario. If there's no people to stop them and you can pick up a stick and hit them, then that's better. But you would not pull out your Glock and shoot them in the forehead unless they have a Glock, right? Because now there's an impending danger that is there. And you can shoot them in American law and Islamic law. And it existed in Islamic law before American law because Islam has been around many, many centuries before America, right? And so it's interesting. If you look at any of the great laws we have here in America, the vast majority of them, the only place where they were found on planet Earth in world history was in the Islamic legal system. It's really weird how they're anti-Sharia law, but if you study it, you're going to find a lot of overlap and mirroring stuff. For this reason, when I was in Boston, I was at a conference, Ella Collins conference, and Imam Webb asked me to come there and give some explanation on some of our Islamic legal principles because I'm pretty focused on those things. I'm very interested and that's one of my focuses. And so we had a gentleman who actually had become agnostic, and he is an attorney in Toronto, Canada. And so he heard about the seminar and he appreciated whatever Suhaib's doing. And he came and he said, what should I do in this conference? He said, for sure, as an attorney, you need to go sit with Imam John and learn about the Islamic legal system and principles. So we sat and he was just so interactive. He was like, wow, man, that's amazing. This is predating because you know, like they're taught to be very proud of the constitutional American law. That's what he's studying. That's his life now. He's gone in that. And Canada's mirroring everything that we have, right? So he's like, wow, Prophet Muhammad said that. And so he came to the conclusion, there's no way some Arab guy in the middle of the desert just comes up with this amazing, vast legal system. They call it al-i'jaz al-tashri'i fi al-fiqh al-islami. The miraculous, amazing, comprehensive system of law found long before the West and all of its pride, after so much trial and error and war and destruction and chaos and oppression over so many hundreds and hundreds of years, people came to gravitate to that which is better. But one guy came in the middle of the desert and proclaimed all of these statements in this revelation that was given to him, and it had all of that at once within 23 years. Right? That is miraculous, and that is something that we are proud of in our faith. And so, irtikab akhaf ad-dararain, I'll give you an example. For example, you know, there is some characters who have this very simpleton approach, right? And these are a big problem because they think they're religious, and they really don't know the religion very well. But they are saying, do not vote. It's haram to vote. Why? Because you're supporting immoral people, right? But Abdurrahman al-Sa'di, one of the great scholars of Saudi Arabia, believe it or not, who was the teacher of Muhammad ibn Salih al-Uthaymeen, he was asked this question about voting in the democratic societies, Muslim or non-Muslim, right? And so his response was this one, irtikab al-khaf al-darar, because he's a big scholar. He's going to answer with he's not going to answer with a misused, misunderstood ayah that your average so-called religious person might give. He's going to go deep and bring you the true essence of the Islamic law. And he said, the fact is, one of those two candidates will be your leader. And they will impose laws and take part in establishing influence over your lives. So, to take yourself out of said election in protest is to, number one, yaktum al-shahada. You are hiding your testimony which has been requested from you by the social order of things. Number two, you are not doing your best to make sure you take part in bringing about the most beneficial candidate for the people in the society that you live in. And so that would be a failure in your amana as a citizen of the state. This is what he said, right? And so this is where you get deep Islamic law, is to understand things on real terms instead of superficial us and them and the kuffar and us. That really attitude, we really need to remove it, because it is the cause of so many very sick, unfortunate attitudes coming from people who are called Muslim. And I will emphasize that point, people who are called Muslim. So there is to be no prosecution against someone who is defending themselves, right? So harm must be removed. So the scholars, they said in explaining this one, it's a very interesting story. In the time of the Prophet ﷺ, this man came to the Prophet and he said, my sister is all the way in a tribe close to Bahrain. And she has swore, she's made nadhr, I swear and pledge that I will go all the way to Hajj and back to the pilgrimage walking. And this is very dangerous, right? It's too much. Particularly for some woman who is not necessarily an athlete or whatever. Mostly she's sitting in a house by the culture of the day that she lived in, right? And so the Prophet ﷺ said, God has no need of her causing harm to herself. What is her understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? No, this is a wrong pledge that she has made and she should expiate it. So the literal understanding of Islam is you fulfill your promise as long as it's not haram, right? And so technically, it's not haram, right? But the Prophet is saying that it is ridiculous, undue harm, and it makes no sense what you're doing. And the same thing happened. So he said, go against the letter of the law for the spirit of the law. And that happens tons of times with the Prophet Muhammad and Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman and Ali radiallahu anhum. We have a deep, rich religion, right? It's not for anybody to open it up and then start preaching and claiming that's what it teaches, right? Because I read an ayah in Surah At-Tawbah, for example, right? Yeah. So the next case, an old man is walking and he's sweating and he looks all weak and his two sons are on camels next to him. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, what is wrong with you? ماذا بك? And he said, I have sworn that I will never ride a camel again. And the Prophet ﷺ said, why would you do that? You're an old man. Expiate your swear and get on the camel. And what kind of kids are you that you're going to let your dad make some ridiculous swear, right? You have some strange, cultural things that happen. Some brother came to me once, he said, well, I don't know why I did this, but I was at dinner. And as I was at dinner, basically, my friend, he starts arguing, and he says, listen, if this is not the case, I divorce my wife. Now, what the heck are you? Where did your wife get into the situation here, right? But there's some culture that it's like trying to prove a point, right? The Prophet ﷺ would tell him, what is wrong with you, right? Because the Prophet ﷺ said, ثلاثة جدهن جد وهزلهن هزل, right? الزواج والطلاق وعتق الرقبة وفي رواية الرجع. So there are three things that there is no joking around, right? Is to marry. Say, I marry my daughter to you. You cannot go back and say, I don't marry my daughter. Once you've said that, it's a done deal. You can't say I was joking or I was angry or whatever. Same thing. You cannot say divorced, right? Some brother says, some poor sister comes, yeah, my husband keeps threatening to divorce me. This is 110% immature, unbecoming behavior of any person who declared La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. This is somebody who doesn't understand the religion, right? We should never be like that, right? And so I told the brother, I said, did you know how serious it is if you say divorce, how serious? He was like, I thought, well, because I was just angry in the situation. No. You cannot use such a word and say I was angry. You need to program yourself to be mature enough that, God forbid, if that is the best case scenario between you and your wife, it's thought out, there's arbitration, you've done everything you can, you've covered all the bases, and you realize there can be no peace and happiness in this relationship, then you make a sane, sound-minded, rational decision, well, there is a divorce, right? And so that is how that happens. And so what I told this brother is, since you did not know the seriousness of this rule, then inshallah it doesn't account against you, but from now on, now that you know, right, it will count, right? And so everybody in the room is now joining the brother. So, this faulty terrorist doctrine, right? There's something that says, Laa Darar Walaa Diraar, right? This is, I was watching the misguided antics of Anwar Ulaqi as he lost his path and went astray. And he said in the interview, very clearly and plainly, these people have caused the women and children of the Muslim world to be killed, so we will kill their women and children, Muslim or not, right? Just terrorism, right? That's his interpretation of things, right? The Prophet ﷺ said, أَدِّ الْأَمَانَ إِلَى مَنْ ائْتَمَنَكَ وَلَا تَخُنْ مَنْ خَانَكَ. Fulfill the trust and responsibility to whoever has taken that from you, but never be treacherous to someone who is treacherous to you. Because treachery is not Islamic behavior. You don't say, well, after he did that to me, then I'm going to do the same thing to him. So the sheikh who responded to this misguided claim and doctrine, which we've heard from other misguided characters who grow long beards and have this appearance of some sort of religious leader, and everybody's thinking that about them, but they don't know the religion very well, got all nostalgic and romantic in the seerah books about ghazawat, and they didn't know anything about fiqh al-Islami. Right? And so basically the sheikh responded, if some guy comes and rapes your sister, you going to go rape his sister? You rape my sister, I'll rape your sister. Does that sound reasonable to anybody in this room? It's the same thing. The Prophet ﷺ said in a just war, he is teaching how is it if God forbid the last case way of trying to achieve your peace and comfort in your society that you have to fight a people who are causing harm and corruption. Do not kill the women and do not kill the children or the elderly or the monks and their temples. That is the order of the Prophet Mohammed ﷺ, and there is no way, shape or form anybody can change that because they got all emotional in their political confusion about the way things are in the world, right? There are ways to fix things, right? And so it's the same thing, if somebody's trying to attack you or whatever, you can defend yourself. But don't get the hero complex. You watch too many Marvel movies and now you think, I'm going to take this guy down, right? And then you get yourself killed. You would be the fool in that case. Best case scenario, you call the police. But if you are a caring person, you go to the range and there's somebody with a gun and you can take him out and that person is waving the gun around, shooting and so forth, you have the right as an American and as a Muslim, long before America existed, to take that person out because they are putting a harm and a threat to everybody there. Right? That's the Islamic law. It's a beautiful thing that we have. And so, and the final is the impact. Right? Bottom line is everything prohibited or disliked in Islam, the reason why is because it brings some sort of harm. And Islam is talking about removing harm and corruption and bad influence, right? So we have to seek a deeper understanding of our religion and in our scriptural reading so that we can become people who live our lives as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with. Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. We've been talking about the beautiful, rich legacy of real Islamic law, right? That one day, if God blesses us, we haven't had a real Islamic state in centuries. We don't have anybody applying it correctly, and all scholars would testify to that. And we hope and pray that we will establish ourselves again on this rightly guided way, what is called caliphate, to go successing the prophetic model, right? And that would be because we as a people have fixed what's in our hearts and in our minds and our attitudes and the way we function because we have a deep understanding of the law, its priorities, its objectives, and its principles, right? There's a movement to say, oh, all this stuff he's talking about is too complicated for you. You're just simple people just praying their prayers and, you know, that's it, right? You're a good Muslim now. This is secularism, to be honest with you, right? And you have to know the enemy, how he comes stealth, trying to convince you that now you're religious because you did a couple of things when you are part of the divine legacy of prophethood. This is a great, noble honor. We should never take that lightly. We should not let a day go by that we don't try to learn and get closer to the Quran and Sunnah. So how we treat our families, how we grow in our knowledge and understanding, how we develop spirituality, how we respond to turmoil in the house, right, is to remove harm and to not bring any sort of harm in our lives or in the lives of those we love, right? This is a very, very well-established Islamic priority, right? Yet you see Muslims having a hard time with this one. The diet that we keep, right? Some brothers mashallah got zealous. He said, Imam, you said smoking is haram? And there is no ayah in the Quran, and we're very nice. This brother go to the hookah lounge and smokes. Now he's all of a sudden a puritanical follower of the Quran and the Sunnah. You know, he said, there's nothing in the Quran and the Sunnah that say you can't smoke, right? And I'm telling you that there's nothing in the Quran and Sunnah that said you can't shoot heroin, right? Did you see the ayah, the hadith, don't shoot heroin, right? How about don't spit in someone's face, right? Right? Let's not allow our desires and whatever we got used to and culturally comfortable with to make us think in a different way. The Prophet said, Laa Darar Walaa Diraar. Memorize it. There is no harming oneself or others. Laa Darar Walaa Diraar. You cannot harm yourself and others. That is haram. Every way, shape, and form of it. It doesn't need to be directly mentioned in the scripture. The only reason why some people were saying makruh long before it was established, it now has haram by all scholars pretty much, except for those that are in with the governments making billions of dollars off the tobacco industry, right? You have to be deep in your understanding, right? It is because they did not know the extent to the harm. So what the scholar said, we see it makes you smelly. You get smelly, right? So it's like onion or garlic or something like that. And some people, as they get older, maybe they get coughing and things like that. But other people, we didn't see that, so that's what they knew. So they said, makruh, it's got some bad stuff, stay away from it, it might cause more harm, we don't know. But when all of the doctors and the people of the world, of the medical science, of the human body, and the effects of smoking, after they studied it all, they said, even smoking one hookah thing or a cigarette is haram. Right? Why? Because of this teaching from the Prophet ﷺ, Laa Darar Walaa Diraar. There's no harming yourself. Now we're learning about all these problems with obesity and diabetes and all that, that there are things that could cause that in your diet. Now right now we're kind of where we were with smoke 30 years ago, 40 years ago, right? They're saying, we're starting to see that sugar is a problem. fats and greases and all that stuff is a problem. Maybe some of these hormones and the cows people are eating and all that stuff is a problem. People are starting to look at this, right? They're starting to see some harms, right? So right now they're saying karaha, to just eat all this sugar and things like that. It could come that they finally definitively decide, at which Muslims would take it equally as they do now with the smoking, that this sugar should be contained into that which is not harmful. Right? For sure, the way Allah created it, eating some honey with some bread or in the fruits and things like that, for sure. You're not going to have a problem with that because that's khalqullah subhanahu wa ta'ala and that's halal tayyibat. But this processed white stuff is causing problems. And there's so many proofs that are growing and developing, so we should be careful. Did the Imam say sugar is haram? No. Do not leave this place telling people lies. Right? What the Imam said, be careful and be aware about whatever you do in your life. How we live our lives, what we do. Like some brother asked me, is it haram to play football? And I said, flag football, for sure, no. Tackle football, if you don't have pads on, pretty much haram. Because there's a high potential. The purpose is to go and blast that guy and tackle him down. And people can get hurt, and that is the purpose. For sure, boxing, MMA, all that stuff is haram. Why? Because the purpose is to physically harm the other person. That's what the purpose is. Right? So for sure it's haram. I know you got used to the pay-per-view and the UFC and all that, but you have to give up things that you come to realize are not acceptable. Just like you wouldn't take part in it, you wouldn't support it by spending money on it, or saying something, well, I heard that it's not haram to sell alcohol or tobacco. No! You're going to earn money from people potentially killing themselves and killing other people? No way, shape, or form would a Muslim have any part in that, right? So as a Muslim, we have to find other ways. I've known in this room, I know more than one person that used to be involved in the convenience stores that, alhamdulillah, has left it by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For the one who repents, there is a way. وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. Whoever would have taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will give them a way out of their situation. But you can't have your nafs become the authority sharia in your life. Whatever I want it to be, whatever I got comfortable with, whatever I think, whatever some character called a scholar may have said, and the vast majority of scholars are refuting that with very strong evidences from the Quran and Sunnah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, purify our hearts, illuminate our hearts and mind with the wisdom that came from the revelation that you revealed. Ya Allah, make us a people of social consciousness of our welfare and the welfare of those around us. Make us people who work hard to remove harm from ourselves and the society around us. Make us be people who are known for standing up for the rights and the causes of the necessities of the faith that you revealed. Ya Allah, please make us a people who are forgiving because we have earned your contentment and we seek your forgiveness. Ya Allah, please forgive us for our weakness and laziness in our knowledge and understanding and practice of religion. Ya Allah, please return us to a people of greatness, of dignity, of respect because of the values that you revealed. Ya Allah, make beloved to us the prophetic model of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and that we learn him and we learn his teachings and that we inherit the beautiful inheritance of the knowledge that he left behind. Ya Allah, please remove the tyranny and corruption and chaos that is found all over the world, particularly in very unfortunate places like Syria and Palestine and Burma and Africa and elsewhere, where people are going through corruption and tyranny and oppression and harm and destruction. Ya Allah, please make us people of creative, positive contribution. Do not let Muslims be known for destruction and chaos.